I think when it comes down to my personal flavor of if like most boxes checked of what the truck should do, per se for me, for my kind of use, I think the 80 series is the way to go. So I try to, really approach that in a careful way. Like, it has to look good. There's form and function. Like, one can be better than the other. So, shop behind my house. So compared to that, huge, big space. I mean, you can play football in there. Like,
so you're thinking that I can be here forever.
Yeah. So again, as we all know, videos never do justice. But this particular cat fight just puckered up, man. Like.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Overland Weekly, episode number 12. My name is Davey. I will be your host tonight. John was supposed to be here with me, and he got called out to some dad duty, so I'm flying solo on this one. But I do have a guest that we're going to bring on here in just a couple of minutes, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. We got a lot of things to touch on, and if you are a Toyota fan particularly, I think you're going to enjoy this episode. So with that said, it is event season. Cruise Moab just wrapped up. That's all over Instagram. There's also events going on all across the country. And this is one of the questions that I get from folks that are maybe kind of new to the scene is, how do I get plugged in? How do I find out about different events that are happening? And if you're a Toyota person particularly, the TLCA, that's the Toyota Land Cruiser Association, that is the national chapter. Then there's sub-chapters, local chapters underneath that. Get plugged in with those guys. They're putting on all these different chapters are putting on events. Contrary to Land Cruiser being in the name, you do not have to be a Land Cruiser owner. To be in the club, you only have to own a four-wheel drive Toyota. I think the bylaws say a Toyota with a 2-speed transfer case. I guess 2-speed or more transfer case. But and if you're not a Toyota person, if you are a Nissan person or a Rover person or maybe even a Montero person, and we're going to talk to one of those in a minute, a lot of these Toyota events will happily welcome you in and let you register for those events. So going on, we've got Toyota Jamboree coming up in Texas, the Oregon Trophy Challenge, the Razorback Ramble, then back out west, of course, you've got the Rubathon. You've got Cruisers on the Rockies. That's the first annual from our friend Lee Sumner, who does Cruisers on the Rocks over here at Windrock. Now he's taking the show out there to do Cruisers on the Rockies. Land Cruiser Destination Club for you 200 series folks is going on. And then the Great Smoky Mountain Trail Ride, that's the event that my personal club, the STLCA, puts on, is happening at Windrock June 13th through 15th. So, speaking of 200 series, a couple of weeks ago, John and I were talking about body lifts. We were talking about with this IFS suspension now that you reach a point that you got to start trimming fenders if you want to fit more meat underneath there. And used to, body lifts were more common, and they're not as common as they used to be. And when I say body lift, if you're thinking about the old homemade lifts 20 years ago when I was in high school, you had fence post lifts, and you had hockey pucks, and you had I even bought an old F-250 one time that somebody had put 4x4 wooden blocks under. That did not work too well. But I'm not talking about those, and I'm not talking about the old 3-inch pieces of plastic that you stuck under your Silverado, and it had that huge, ugly bed gap under there to run 33s on it. My friend Micah, who is Tiny the 200 on Instagram, has been working on a set of body lifts specifically for the 200 series platform. That is the beginning of this venture. It will be adding more to the company as it grows here. Let me show you what he's come up with. So here's a couple of trucks that are running the prototypes on this. We've got this LX570 that's just got a 3/4 inch lift on it. So again, we're not talking about a 3 or 4 inch body lift. We're talking about very small amounts, just enough to help you maybe cut a little less fender, maybe not cut fender, depending on what you're trying to fit under there, and squeeze a little bit more tire underneath there. So he's got these kits. These are really well made. He's put a lot of thought into this, precision machined, all the components, radiator drops, all of that is included in the kits. Here's one running 37s. This was, I believe, out at Cruise Moab with Jason's truck. And then here is his new Instagram. So that's NST Spec, which is not so tiny spec. So if you know Micah's truck, it's a LX570 disguised as a Toyota that's on 40s, and it's nicknamed Tiny. So this the company is Not So Tiny Spec. But go give him a follow. Like I said, even if you're not in a 200 right now, he's got some other products coming that I think are going to be really interesting. And he is opening pre-orders on his website, nstspec.com, this coming week. All right. So with that said, housekeeping out of the way, let me welcome to the show our guest tonight. He is the owner and founder of Stellarbuilt in Sacramento, California. Please welcome to the show, Dmitriy.
What's up? How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here, man. So you you just got back from a little trip yourself, huh?
Yeah, I went up to Moab for a couple of days. Yeah, no, we ran some trails, met up with a bunch of people, you know, always good to see familiar faces, you know, talk to vendors, talk to people with cool rigs, you know, meet a bunch of people. So it's just a good gathering. So I wish that event would grow bigger, you know, for what the event is. I think it's a good time, you know, especially if you've been there a couple of times, you know, got to know how the rhythm of the event, how things are held, how things are put together. You know, it's a good little holiday vacation almost. So
yeah, I would love to get out there one day. It's a haul from Tennessee, but it's on my list. So
yeah, it is quite a ways for you. I mean, for us as well. It was I think we did it in one shot, but it was, gosh, almost 900 miles. I mean,
yeah,
it's still a long drive.
So for folks that are not familiar with Stellarbuilt, they must have been sleeping under a rock. But nonetheless, let me roll this little 2-minute clip here that just kind of goes through some of your builds over the last year, and then we'll kind of dive into how this whole thing started and where it's going. Man, that's a lot of rigs. Does that bring back a few memories?
It did. It was quite some time. A trip down the memory lane for sure.
Well, I want to show you this before we talk about how this thing began. I found this post on Mud. This is in August of 2012, and see if you remember writing this. You were just a guy that's considering getting an 80 series, asking different Toyota questions, kind of like most people new to the Land Cruiser platform would be. And this is 12 years ago, and here you are now, with all these builds coming out of your shop. I can tell you're rereading it here.
Yeah, no, this is I remember this actually. Yeah, I mean, I guess to reflect on this, it's really, we can kind of go back further than that. It was
Okay.
what kind of started it all for me is just a whole different platform. You know, I'm definitely a Land Cruiser guy. I love Land Cruiser. I drive them. I own a bunch of them. I'm a huge fan. I think it's the best vehicle in the world. But it all started with something else, which is a Mitsubishi Montero, which is a very popular global platform, questionably popular here in U.S. So, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it started at all. And then, you know, I guess quickly realized its downfalls, its downsides. You know, I still think it's a great platform, but that kind of led me to Land Cruisers. You know, particularly 80 series, which out of the Land Cruisers, I would say that's probably my favorite, and that kind of led me to where we are now. So, yeah.
So the Montero, I think this is the one. This is the one we found a picture of anyway. Was this one of your early ones?
I had a few of them, but this is the Mitsubishi that kind of built out. So, kind of story about this truck. It was kind of handed to me. I used to be involved in like an export business. I used to ship a lot of vehicles overseas, and Mitsubishi's, like I said earlier, is a global platform, very popular all over the world. Pajero, Shogun, it has a bunch of different names. Particularly in Central Asia, very popular vehicle. Here in US, sure. It wasn't that much in demand. They were super cheap, still super cheap. Like, you know, you can pick them up for a couple of grand. You know, it's a fairly robust platform. I mean, it's got, you know, I would say to people that are not familiar, it's something between a 4Runner and a Land Cruiser. So definitely burly, like big components, especially the FS system. I think it's really strong on it. So, so I used to ship all these, and this particular one kind of landed on, like, and it stayed. Like I had the customer back out, whatever. So I kept this truck. So I wasn't necessarily into off road. Like I wasn't like an off roader guy.
Okay.
You know, I grew up outdoors. Like I did a lot of that stuff, but not necessarily like a 4x4 guy. So that was my first 4x4. So I kind of fixed it up, and you know, I quickly realized you can't. You know, especially at that time, you know, was it 2010, maybe earlier? There wasn't a lot of options. You can't just like jump on the, on whatever Amazon or whatever site, you know, just jump on,
right.
Choose whatever bumpers. There wasn't really anything. There was no suspension option. I mean, you can kind of source maybe some like old OME stock that may be lying somewhere. There's like a small little Montero niche group, but you gotta have to get creative and build your own parts. So that's kind of what led me to everything else, because I took this platform, had to make everything for it essentially myself. You know, whether it's fitting other parts from other vehicles. You know, like in this case, like I had a bumper that had to, trim, cut, and fit off of FJ Cruiser. You know, to make work on the Mitsubishi. Same goes for sliders. Same for for everything else. So. Yeah, I mean that's kind of why I started with that, and kept. And I still think that they're great trucks. You know, I contemplate occasionally buying one just to kind of have this nostalgic reflection where it all started. So, but yeah, after that, I kind of started dabbling with Land Cruisers. You know, I realized like Toyota had a solid axle suspension. And right. I like that, and that's one thing I kind of realized. And with the Mitsubishis is just lack of travel in the front, plenty of travel in the rear. Being an IFS in the front, torsion bar IFS setup in the front, it just didn't have a lot of movement. And I live in Northern California. We got the Rubicon, we got Fordyce, we got all these epic world-class trails next to us. So that's a terrain I'm around. That's what I'm surrounded with. So if I want to go have some fun, push the trucks. Push it, to next level. I just need a vehicle that can handle it. So, Land Cruiser was kind of the next chapter. So then I got into an 80. So I got my first 80. Then those. So yeah, exactly. So I had a couple before that, but that's one of the ones I built out.
Okay.
And really, kind of that's where things took off. I'm really passionate about this platform. Just love how it works. Love how it handles. I mean, out of the box with a basic lift, that thing is like 80s are unstoppable. I think it's the best Land Cruiser ever built.
Yeah, that's it's hard to argue against it not being the the best generation to actually put to use, right?
Exactly. I mean, the 100 series has its thing. 200 series are cool. I have a 200 series myself, which it's a great platform. Definitely has a lot of pluses, but I think when it comes down to my personal flavor of if like most boxes checked of what the truck should do, per se for me, for my kind of use, I think A80 series is the way to go.
So you start building these 80 series. You're learning more about Land Cruisers. So you had apparently some fabrication experience from the Montero platform because there weren't parts that existed, so you had to make parts if you wanted sliders and bumpers or modify what was out there. When did it start becoming a job, a commercial venture? Some of those early clips, it looked like you guys were doing a lot of tube work, a lot of rear bumpers. Then we saw a moment there was a lot of Subarus coming through there. So kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, for sure. So it really started like from just making my own parts at Mitsubishi. So like we had to get creative. I got my welder. I just started building stuff, and it kind of went from there. I worked on friends' trucks. I was in the scene, going out with people. Worked on friends of friends' trucks, and I was at a point in my life, where I was kind of on a split road here. I was finishing up with a university degree, and I kind of had a choice whether I'm going to be like, office job or I should maybe give this a shot. So, and I kind of chose this direction, and I'm glad I did. And that's kind of where it went, from there. So I just started building a bunch of friends' trucks, friends of friends, and kind of then it just this guy called, that guy called, and I have a fairly decent sized shop behind my house, so I did a lot of work from there.
Okay.
I had a bunch of tooling, and I felt really comfortable with what I did. Especially again, Northern California is kind of like a mecca for off-road here. Like
yes,
there's a SoCal, NorCal, in Reno area. Like there's just a lot of wheeling. There's a lot of demand. Like I can understand if I had all this talent and skill set, but not necessarily be in a position where there's not a lot of people around me. Like we're here, it's fortunate to be in Sacramento, capital of California. Pretty big city, a lot of cities around us. So it's just a good position to be with this kind of craft. So anyway, so just kind of progress from there, learning a lot. And I think that my biggest leap of faith there would be getting my first commercial space, which is that's always like the big thing. Like right now you don't have any overhead where you don't have to worry about bills. Besides your house. Like here now you have to worry about other things. So, but I'm glad I did. A buddy of mine, his father had a bunch of shops, and in California it's like a cutthroat environment, and it's very difficult to get commercial space. Very difficult. You have to have approvals. You have to have referrals and this and that. So thankfully, a buddy of mine, his dad had some space, got into that. 2,500 square foot shop, and just went ham. I mean, I just worked nonstop. Like, this is the early days. It would just be constant at the shop. Like it's those times that nobody ever brags about. Nobody really talks about. It's a lot of lonely, almost dark moments. Where you just have to, where it's just you, and you just push along. But I think what was going for me is just I was really passionate about what I did. I was in the industry that I enjoyed and still enjoy, and that kind of would carry me through. So, and we built a fairly good clientele from just from out of that space.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So, in those early days, was it pretty much word of mouth as far as getting new customers in?
I don't think to this day, I've never really paid for any sort of advertising. It was all word of mouth and social media. I mean, Instagram is the only sort of marketing, and that's more because that's just a place where you just hang out and post stuff, and how it is now. Like it's not necessarily like I didn't use it as like a hey, I gotta be posting it to get business. No, that's just where I shared my work, and I don't know, people share with other people, I guess. I didn't have like a ad anywhere, or none of that stuff. So it was all word of mouth. I will say this, like in the position, like I guess mid 2000s, 2012, 2013, I think the industry as a whole Overall, like off-roading and 4x4, overlanding particularly, is a concept that just really blew up. I mean, I was fortunate to be in a position where I was able to ride that wave. You know, like it
Yeah.
was kind of like a novelty. We're at a point where like the guys that off-roaded, it's either be like the, you know, people think of like those hillbillies, like they go mud bogging and do all this, you know, like I guess like the old school four-wheeling. I don't know how else to call it.
Yeah,
you know?
like us guys over here in the South. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you just have a pickup truck with some big tires, and you go out.
Sure.
And but then it turned into a thing where it's like, you know, there's styles and different kind of way of building trucks, and particularly overlanding and all the accessories that come with that. You know, so it just bloomed. The industry just blew up. So.
Yeah, the culture really changed around
the culture, yeah. I mean, and on top of that, like everything for the manufacturers, like Toyota, Chevy, Ford. Everybody's on this hype of building off-road. It's getting to like building stuff for off-road. So, you know, being a Land Cruiser guy, I kind of stuck to Toyotas. Now, you mentioned Subarus. Going back to my early days, like I was into like rally and stuff. So, you know, rally off-road, you know. Although like rally doesn't necessarily use a lot of off-road bumpers, but they use some armor. So I because of that, and particularly because there was no options for Subarus, at least at that time, I built a bunch of them. I built just a ton of bumpers, and you know, I want to say like I was one of the early ones, particularly that did like an off-road style bumper for like cross treks. You know, that was a really unique concept. So you know, building like swing outs for Foresters, like nobody did that kind of stuff. I've never seen that. So you know, like that. I did a swing out on the Cayenne, which is pretty ridiculous at that time. You know, now it's like a thing, like everybody's building Cayennes, but you know, back then, like, you know, it's funny. That Cayenne was actually built was not its purpose. It wasn't for off-roading. The guy literally just wanted to have a place for a spare because he towed like a race car trailer. And you know, I'm like, well, why don't I use this, you know, swing out concept that's in off-road industry and do that? So that's why we did that. So.
Did you find like people would show up? You had a Subaru come in, then you've got the Cayenne come in, then like we saw an Xterra come in the door, and they've all got these swing outs that kind of have a lot of similarity to it. And you say, okay, well, I've done it for these two. I'm just going to change it up and do the same thing over here.
Yeah. So for me, like design and aesthetics is a pretty big thing. You know, I grew up around art. My degree was in architecture, my early degree. So, like, aesthetics and just how things are put together, how things look is pretty important to me. Like, so I try to, you know, really approach that in a careful way. Like, it has to look good. You know, there's form and function. Like, one can be better than the other. So there has to be like a harmony, equilibrium between the two for something to be purposeful and look good. You know, you can make something that looks good but doesn't function very well. You can make something that's functional very nice, but you know, looks like crap. So, and a lot of stuff that I seen like from Fabrication that came out was like a lot of function, but didn't look very good. You know, unless you get into like race desert $250,000 builds in SoCal, like there wasn't really a lot of that stuff here. Like it was very brute, kind of just hardcore, like just awful welds, awful way of just putting things together. So to me, like aesthetics is a big thing. So that's why I like tube work. I love working with tube. Working with my bender, I love that. So, being able to incorporate it into my designs was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that a lot. Like I didn't have especially at that time, I didn't have like a CNC table. I got one later, but everything was manually built, cut manually with cardboard and such.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, so it wasn't as easy to repeat things back then either, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I Stellar built, and to this day, like we don't. I never got into production. That's just one thing that's kind of I realize if you're gonna get into that, you have to go all in. Like all efforts have to go in, hands and feet. You can't just dabble, like make a little batches. Like if I'm gonna go do it, I'm gonna do it all the way. So otherwise, I'm okay with building this one-off custom pieces, and that's what we do today. Like if somebody wants to come in, they have a bumper idea or whatever fabrication concept that you can't buy, like we'll build it. That usually applies more towards stuff that you physically can't buy. Like if you got a Tacoma 400, hundreds of options, tons of options.
Right.
There's no need for me to make it. It'll be a lot more expensive for me to build a custom bumper. But if you want something that's unique, if you got especially like rock crawl applications where everything's just changed and cut up, that's the way to go.
So back in that first shop space that you leased, said it was 2,500 square foot space. Was it still just you, or had you started adding team members at that point?
I think I got to a point where I added somebody on board. It was my first employee. Again, it got to the point where I just couldn't keep up. I began to just get really overwhelmed. I had a trouble saying no to people because I wanted the business, and your deliverables kind of begin to suffer because things took long. So I'm realizing like, okay, rather than having like 2-3 months lead time, why don't we just cut this in half and just because we have more manpower. So brought somebody along, which that was another huge leap of faith. Like I've never, I'm not like a big businessman. Like I didn't even run businesses before. I'm young. Like this is my first venture. So
you're figuring it out as you go. Yeah.
Well, yeah, bringing somebody on. I mean, bringing somebody's responsibility, like another responsibility under my wing, like. That was a big one, It's not, now it's a lot. I handle it much more smoother, but before it was a big thing. So brought somebody on, and then we got another assistant in the shop. So I think out of that space, I want to say we had 3 guys working out of the 2,500 square foot shop. But that maybe a 4th one. I don't remember exactly. I think that was just 3 of us. I mean, we could have had more guys, but at that time, that's kind of where I was at, and we had 3 guys, and we quickly just ran out of room because it was a single bay shop. You all the equipment and tooling and material take a lot of space. So I'm like, okay, well, we need more space. So we moved. There's a building across from me. I think it was 5,400 feet, double the size, big shop. I mean. Now I'm still thinking about my old, shop behind my house. So compared to that, huge, big space. I mean, you can play football in there, like just.
So you're thinking I can be here forever.
Yeah, I'm like this.
Hey everyone, Davey here. I'm interrupting the show just for a second. So we've been at this for a little over a year now, and some of you have been following us from day one, and we greatly appreciate that. Others, you've found it as we've kind of gone along and found our format and continue to put out this content. And I really hope that you're enjoying it. So if you are, this is the part where I ask you to do us a favor. If you're on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you haven't. And what really helps is if you can leave some comments there in the block below. If you're listening to this on a podcast format and you can do a rating or review there, we'd greatly appreciate that as well. All right, back to the show.
I'm like, this is it, man. This is this is the space. So we moved in there, and that was definitely, we really picked up some pace. I mean, really like made the place nice. Put a bunch of lifts, and again, this is just me as grassroots as it gets. Like I didn't have no investors. There isn't a guy with a bag of cash that that I can tap into. No, there's none of that stuff. Like if I wanted a lift, I have to work hard to add more to save up to buy a lift. There wasn't like creditors, all this stuff. Like there's none of that stuff. Like if you want, you have to buy it. So building a relationship with the vendors, that was a really big thing. Like I realized early on, like establishing good connections with people in the industry. So yeah, I mean, and that's where things took off. That's where COVID hit, and things just went crazy. Like that was just wild. Like I mean, to this day, like I think we're operating about 5 guys now, maybe 5 or 6. I brought in my first shop manager because I literally could not keep up. I had to be answering calls, work in the shop, handle business, materials, this, that. Like just couldn't do it. So I brought somebody on who wasn't necessarily a billable hour guy. Like it's not a guy that's working making stuff that can charge directly for
right.
it. This is somebody that's in the shop now and answering calls. So that was nice. That was a nice sense of relief. And the COVID hit, and that's when things just got crazy. Like everybody and their mama wanted to go outdoors and camp and just isolate. So the industry, I mean, as everybody knows, just blew up. I think at one point like 3 months lead time. If you want to get something done at our shop, you have to wait for 3 months for a window to get anything done. So, yeah, so there's that going for us, and I think at this time I've kind of really refined to more Toyotas. Like those early days, you saw Subarus, Nissans, all that.
Yeah.
Here now, like I did some Subaru, but it was like 99% Toyotas, like everything Tacoma, 4Runner, and that was a conscious decision because why work on anything else? Why cast the wide net when you can just focus on what you're doing? So and do it really well, and just less room for error, less room for mistakes, efficiency. I mean, there's so much about it. So and why not be on the team with an automaker that makes the most cars ever? Like, I mean, unlike Mitsubishi, Toyota makes everything. Everybody wants a Toyota, and and within Toyota you have the 4Runner guys, you have the Tacoma guys, you have the Land Cruiser guys, you have the third-gen 4Runner guys. There's our first-gen 4Runner guys.
Yes, they're extremely segmented. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's got their own thing going for them, So it's just it's a pool of people that's enough to keep you busy. And at that time, it was enough for us. So I'm like, you know what? Unless it's like a favorite deal, like we have no need to work on anything else really. So that changed later, but at that time we rode that for a while. And honestly, to this day, like we're when you call our shop like a business card, there's like a Toyota logo. We consider ourselves Toyota specialty. Like that's our bread and butter. Majority of our work is still Toyotas. All of our vehicles are Toyotas. So but now because we're at a bigger space, we have a big crew. I would consider do more like general 4x4. If you got a Dodge, if you got a Ford, if you got a van, like we'll, when people call, we'll take in those jobs. So
I got you. Let me. Is this the current shop?
So this is the current space. So this is I'll tell you a story about this space. So we're so you mentioned like this is it, 5,400 square foot. We're done. This is it. That's what I thought. Well. No, we're super busy. We need more space. In particular, we ran into an issue when it comes to handling, like packages and like inventory. Like before, it would just be okay. This guy kit in this corner. That guy's stuff is in this corner. Well, there is no corners left over. So like we just needed space and racking and the place to store everything. So. I started looking more spaces and like everything again, like going back to Sacramento, like Northern California, everything's cutthroat, stupid expensive. So, and I was really in a comfortable position with the space I was at. Like, I was renting for somebody who I knew. Where now I'm getting into realtors and dealing with like all these commercial real estate people, like big business, big deal kind of stuff, insurances and all this like crazy, recommendations and referrals and stuff. So this particular shop was really an initiative from a buddy of mine who's in the commercial real estate. He's like, why don't we try to buy a building, Dmitriy? I'm like, oh, come on. This is, I don't have the kind of credibility of this kind of money. Like, I thought of myself very small, which is that was my mistake. I doubted myself there. And he's like, no, we got to try. And at this time, Small Business Administration, particularly because of COVID, they were pumping money into the economy. Everybody got a lot of money. So Small Business Administration had a lot of incentives for small business to expand, to invest back into themselves, to hire people and just keep things moving. So there was a program that I was able to take advantage of to get a loan for this building. Like it's now I'm thinking back, it's like almost unbelievable but that's what happened. We got into the shop, which looked nothing what you see here now. I mean, it was horrid. Like if you look at Google pictures, gosh, it was a trap house. I mean, it was really bad. So we got into this place. I think we had like 3 or 4 months overlap with having our old shop and this space where me personally, like with a couple guys helped, renovated as much as we could. Like everything you see up front and the inside, it's all redone. It looks like a brand new building. So so this space we were able to purchase, and that place. So there's in this picture you see 2 warehouses. We have another one on the side. So just the same one. It's just a little bit further back. So we're in about 18,000 feet, which is more than enough space for what we need. We're very liberal with the amount of space that we have. we could put a bowling in there if we want. It's a lot of room, and I'm super fortunate and blessed to have like the amount of space that we have, because you go to for shops, and still in Sacramento, like in general off-road shop is like everything's just, every corner's packed, everything is just tight.
Sure.
And I get it, and I was there. That's how it is. Everything's expensive, but here, I mean, gosh, there's like a distribution warehouse that we're able to score, and like, I mean, we have a shop dedicated strictly for general in and out service work, gearing, alignment, tires. We have an entire building dedicated strictly to fabrication. So that's only like long-term builds, solid axle swaps, big builds, a lot of fab work, stuff that stays there for, anywhere from like a week to a year, So, and then the building that's further back, you see there in this picture, that building is all dedicated strictly for storage and parking. So we have,
okay.
So that if you go inside it, we have just racking and all our parts and inventory and all the suspension and everything that we use for our shop. So that's all there. So like I said, it's a lot of space. Really happy that we got this place. It makes me happy going in. Like, we don't have to worry. We never, ever have to worry about not having room. That I'll tell you that. Like, as busy as we get, I mean, at certain points we would have 30 vehicles in there. I mean, like, and it's never an issue. So that's I'm glad to I could be a lot more efficient with my space, but why? We got
well, congratulations on getting that purchased. I mean, you've got to like you said, COVID was a terrible thing, but it for a lot of businesses it did present opportunities through the different government programs and just money that was not easily attainable by small businesses before.
For sure, exactly, and that's exactly what happened. Now, it's not something I wasn't given money and forget. Like, I didn't have any.
I understand. Yeah,
loans. It was more like you can borrow this money. We're allow you to borrow this money. So I have a traditional mortgage on the building, commercial loan, like with the bank, all that jazz, but it was backed by the Small Business Administration, where that wasn't
right.
Where before it wasn't as easy. You can still do that, but not as easy. So
yeah, the SBA tells the bank, hey, if this goes tits up, you can come to us for it. So yeah.
Now I will say this: the application for that was the most intense, the most
yes.
brutal application process I've ever had my entire life. Gosh, I think I would imagine citizenship is nowhere near. It was so intense. I had to create like this insane business plan. They really vet people. Like, they don't just hand them out. Like, if you want it, they'll give it to you, but they got to make sure you're worthy. And we had pretty good credentials. We had a great track record, great just presence online. Like, you look up our name, like you look up Yelp, Google, whatever reviews, like everything's great. So they look at all that stuff. So that worked in our favor.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I mean, it's funny you say Google and Yelp. You've got a lot of them, and they're both like 4.8 stars or, dang near 5 stars. That is almost impossible with any retail business, but especially if you just scroll through automotive shops. So
yeah, I'll tell you the secret to, or the kind of a note on that is just a little tip maybe for the guys listening out there. We're in a business where people want to come to us. We're in a business where it's a positive driven business. If you got a water pump failure, if your head gasket blows, if your your belt is slipping, your alternator goes out, there's nothing happy about that. There's nothing positive about that. You're stressed out, can't drive your vehicle to work, you have to take it to a shop. Your vehicle's hijacked for however long, like nothing good about that. So yes, there is a tendency to have bad reviews because people are generally not happy bringing their vehicles to a mechanic. It's like a plumber. Your pipe breaks. There's I don't know what. There's no way that's a happy, positive experience. Where in our line of work, people come to us because they want to. It's driven by positive force. Like they want to go outdoors, they want to go off-road, they want to go spend time with their family, they want to do this, they want to do that. Like, they live an active lifestyle. So Nobody's forcing you with a gun to come to us because you have to. Like, it's a positive business, and because of that, you just have to secure you just make it happen. You know, provide your best customer service. You give it all you got. You know, so I think that's really where the difference is between like a mechanic shop and like an off-road shop. I mean, sure, there might be some bad off-road shops with bad reviews, but I feel like the initial, like, just the way you handle business, it comes off the right foot, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're at the new shop now. You've opened it back up to not just Toyotas. So a lot of the projects that people are familiar with or see on YouTube are your big builds, your solid axle swaps, you know, the crazy stuff. But I notice, I mean, every day, especially if people follow your Instagram and your stories, you know, you're doing upper and lower control arms. You're doing a 3-inch kit on a Tacoma. I mean, you're doing just kind of everyday off-road service.
Yeah. So what pays the bills at our shop is the day in, day out stuff. So like that center building that you see, that's the stuff that's in and out, you know, multiple vehicles through the day. Those are your lifts, your service items, upper control arms, lower control arms, reinforcement, bracketry, tabs, all the stuff that goes wrong, all the lift kits. That's majority of our work. You know, you can only post and talk about like a basic 3-inch lift on a 4Runner so long. Like you can only do that so many times, and okay, it's a different color, but the same thing. And that's a lot of stuff is the same work. So, you know, fabrication and custom, you might like that stuff is definitely attracts more eyeballs and attention. So we kind of tend to post more about that, but a majority of our work, I would still say, is just your day in, day out. You know, you're towing a small trailer, we'll put airbags on your truck. Your suspension is acting wonky. We diagnose it. Your shocks are blown out. We rebuild them. Your alignment, like that's the one thing. Like we have an alignment, state of the art Hunter alignment machine. That machine has been the best thing I've done for the business.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're able to diagnose so much out of that machine. So many issues people have, like drivability issues. So, you know, that's our main line of work, you know. So it may seem like there's like all this crazy crawlers and all this stuff, like, but I'll be honest with you, that's not majority of our work. I would say that's probably 15%, maybe 10% of our work. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So how many guys do you have now in the shop?
We have I think we're at 11, 12 people right now. So, and that's front of the house and back of the house. You know, we have guys that does. We have a fellow that does YouTube. So yeah, that's pretty much our crew. Some have gone, some have added to it. You know, we've added since, but
sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so we have a couple more other guys since then. But yeah, I mean, we have a pretty solid crew, like especially our core. The guys have been with me for a while. You know, yeah, this is it. I mean, there's not much to it. I don't know if that's considered big or small, but that's our crew. So.
Well, I mean, it's 12 times larger than it was a few years ago when it was just you, right?
That's true. That's well, 12 a few years ago. That few years ago was 2015, so we're pushing on 10 years now. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
You said you've got front of house, back of the house. I was going to ask you about your media, all the Instagram and your YouTube now specifically, because they're really sharp, man. I mean, it's so well produced. Obviously the builds are impressive, but the YouTube and the video production is impressive as well. So do you have somebody full-time dedicated to that? We
do, yeah. We have that's another thing I was mentioning earlier. Like, if you're going to do something, you have to do it right. That's kind of been my motto. Like, with YouTube, since day one, Dmitriy, why don't you have a YouTube channel? Why don't you have a YouTube channel? I'm like, dude, I have no time. Like, I can't do everything. And on top of that, shoot some content, put out this little sloppy videos. Like, I got no time for that. So, like, you know, we got to the point where I was able to kind of bring somebody on who records and edits all day. I mean, they do. This fellow does also like some design work, but it's majority. It's just we just record because at any moment's time we are recording maybe 3 or 4 videos at the same time because. If we're doing like a rig check, sure, we'll go out there, we'll shoot at one vehicle and just one shot kind of deal. But like a particular projects, our projects takes time, especially the custom stuff. You could be on there for a week, a month, 2 months. So like be able to track all that progress, squeeze it down, compress it. Like that's a lot of energy that needs to go into that. So yes, we have somebody who records and just edits full time on our channel.
Well, it's working. I think that's a very good investment.
Yeah. For now, as far as social media, like Instagram and stories and stuff, that's me. If whatever you see on our social media, it's been posted right here on my phone right here. So.
Which is a lot, man. I looked at that before we started. Since you've started those accounts, both your Eurosonic account and the shop account. They're both coming in on 2,500 posts. That's a lot of Instagram posts. Not to count the stories. That's just actual posts.
I mean, yeah, it's been on there for a while, and I try not to spam. Like if you look at my, I don't post every day. Like my stories I do, but particular posts, like I should probably be posting more because we just have so much stuff like a lot of cool stuff that goes on, but yeah, no, for sure. It does take time. It takes a lot of energy. Like when I follow people and I follow like other accounts, like there's a certain moment where if it's like, at least for me, I kind of feel like this, okay, that's too much sauce. Like I've watched too much of their content because it's like always in your face, always like, pushing. So, I try to, balance out a little bit here, a little bit there.
I understand that feeling exactly. Yeah. Sticking with that YouTube, I want to show because I want to talk about portals. Sure. You guys have done this a couple of times now, and let me show this this little intro clip here.
Hey! Portals? What? What are puddles? Oh, what? Puddles. What? Portals? Portals. Portals? Portals. 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 Like portals. 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 Portals, bro. Portals. Portals, dog. Hell yeah. Listen here, Jack. You ain't nothing but a piece of cheese without the corners. So in other words, you ain't never gonna be a slice. Be
All right. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's just catchy. All of your videos have that. I mean, you guys are having a lot of fun. Not just you, but it really appears that the whole team is having fun. You're making fun of yourselves as you go in these videos, and it just makes it really enjoyable to watch. Yeah,
I think because we work in the recreation industry, like everybody that's almost like a requirement in my shop. Like everybody that works at our shop is into this. They're naturally into this. Like we don't have any welders that are just production welders that just weld good, but they're not in. Everybody comes to our shop. Everybody has rigs. We go out together. Everybody wheels out, whether by themselves, with their family. They go camping. Every single person's got their flavor and style of vehicles. Like we might not be all like Toyota guys, but we're all about it. So like I think that's what kind of creates this culture. We enjoy what we do. We work on building trucks all day. We play with toys all day. So that's fun.
Well, speaking of toys, so this taco you went out and picked up brand new, right? It had like 10 miles on it or something, and you put these portals on it.
Yeah. So this project was together with 74 Weld. They're the guys that are their brainchild behind engineering on this thing. We as a Toyota shop, I guess we're more of as a consultant on just some of the details of the build. I mean, I can go into it, but it's just more like an engineering quirks here and there. Like we were more like on consulting end of things when it comes to this truck. So we've done this Tacoma, which is great. I think that was the first one ever. We did the 4Runner, which is a little bit more refined. Right now we're doing our own shop Tacoma, which we recorded a bunch of stuff on it. We just haven't posted. Still kind of have to finish it, but that's going to be even crazier. Like the goal for this Tacoma was more like let's put on portals and put decent sized tire and leave it relatively stock. Like that was the goal from playing at 74 Weld and see what that gets us. How far does that get us? And that's what we did. It's got a suspension system, but it's all technically set up a factory ride height that you would get out of a factory Tacoma. So, and it's all like stock looking. With the foreign that we did, that was for my friend, our guy Brennan. He does all of our website stuff. So with that, we kind of pushed the limit because now it's like it's a private individual. He can do whatever he wants with his truck. So we kind of pushed the limits of as far as sizing and spec on the wheels. The Tacoma that we're doing for ourselves, there's no rules.
Is that your famous shop truck that's been through a few iterations now?
Yes. I don't even know which iteration is going to be on, but our Tacoma is going to be crazy. So we're excited with having portals on that. I think we're definitely going to push it. It's really looking. We put tracks on it, but I think it'll be kind of cool with what we do with the next.
Yeah, we actually, that's probably been a year ago when you guys put tracks on it. We showed that clip in one of our intros on one of the shows out there, you guys playing in the snow with that.
Yeah. So that truck is, that was kind of like its winter mode. During the summer, we take them off, put tires on. It gets used up for truck duties, like shop truck. We carry material, parts, whatever. We go to wrecking yards, pick up whatever. And so yeah, I mean, it gets used to its full extent. It's not just like a pretty overland machine, we wheel it and we use it every day. My guys drive it to work. It's a truck that lives at the shop and just gets used for whatever. So
awesome. Well, so and it'll be. I'm anxious to see. It's this new iteration with the portals, but portals in general. Where do you think? Technology has obviously come a long way. Manufacturing technology. I think one of the big questions is over the next 5 to 10 years, will we see that price point come down on portal systems in general?
I think so. I think as more players come into the game, I think it's going to bring stuff down, bring the prices, the cost of entry down. The thing about 74 Wheel, I truly believe it's the best portals you can buy in the universe because they are built. It's a race component that's built for KOH that's been adapted to a civilian use. So it's from the beginning, it's built extremely robust, like with the best aerospace engineering. 74 Weld is a company that's has contracts with the U.S. government building top secret stuff with high quality, precision, ISO certified, and all that stuff. So portals, that's just like a pet project of the owner of building off-road products. So your super high quality approach to doing things, and that's what they did with portals. That's particularly why they're so expensive now. Now, I will say this, as you introduce, I guess mass manufacturing, as there's maybe more players come into the game, I hope the price comes down. Maybe the way that it's built, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this robust. I mean, it's very strong. Like you need a mind to like blow these up. So if I think for Toyota and having an IFS, I mean, gosh, even comparing to like that portal unit, the upright compared to like a factory tie rod, we're talking about like 10-to-1 difference in strength. Like they're so far off, away from each other. So if we make them a little bit, I don't mind sacrificing the strength for price. So because particularly for IFS application, because I don't think it's gonna break. So if that let's say cuts the price down in half.
Oh, then that's a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there are other players in the market. There's some companies in Ukraine that's making this stuff, but I think for a relatively complicated product like a portal, it needs to be made here in U.S. For all the support, serviceability and all that. So it has to come here. So plus, I mean, there's nothing cooler than buying U.S. made parts.
Absolutely, 100%. All right. Well, let's get into a couple of the builds. There, you've got multiple builds that we could walk through, but I want to talk about two in particular. I want to talk about what I believe is your personal rig, the corporate cruiser. I'm a 200 series guy, so I'm into this corporate cruiser. Let me show this little clip. I think this is just from this last week here. Was this in Moab?
Oh, yeah. This was on Cane Creek. Yeah, so again, as we all know, videos never do justice, but this particular
sure.
had my just puckered up, man. Like very uncomfortable, like especially this moment here. Like it was pretty wild. I mean, we ran this thing. Yeah, so this is my 200 series. I bought the thing, built it up since stock. So that's I mentioned earlier I'm an 80 series guy. I have an 80 series. I just don't have any that they're like finished right now. So this is my favorite truck. I love this thing. It's literally been, I think I put 20,000 miles since I bought it, and almost all of those miles are related to overlanding and off-road. Like there's either driving the trail, on the trail, wheeling the trail. It's not a vehicle that I commute in. It's not a vehicle that I, use it for any other purpose, So
and I've seen you put it on the trailer several times too. So it's not racking up highway miles going to the event, so to speak.
Yeah, like okay, so like every year, me and my family we have a tradition where we take like a trip during winter break with my kids and all that. So we a few years in a row now have taken 2,000 to 2,500-mile trips in one take, and we take that truck because it fits everybody. I'm able to mix in a little bit of wheeling with, just general off-road, just travel. So went to Arizona, wheeled Sedona, we all these trails around there. So that's the weapon of choice. Now going to Moab, like there's no reason for me to just put all the miles on the tires and, God forbid something breaks. Like I feel much more comfortable putting in the truck and trailer, haul it out there and bring it back. So. Excuse me.
So, did you know how you wanted to build this one from day one when you bought it?
Yeah. So from day one, I knew exactly my goal with this truck was to fit 37s. There's not a single person that I knew of that did 37s on a cruiser, particularly because of KDSS, and that comes from our experience at our shop. KDSS is just like a big bulky mount that's in the driver's side that's in the way of you turning. So
right,
you had to delete that. And they're still expensive vehicles. Not everybody's willing to cut into and just dive in and cut that part of their truck off. Like that's huge. It's literally integrated into the entire truck. So me being what I do, we decided to cut that off, and we made our own sway bar mounts in the back and just fit those big 37s, and everything on that truck has been built around those 37s. So the way that those bumpers, they may look like descent off the shelf bumpers, they're far from that. Like they're trimmed down on each side 3 or 4 inches. They're capped from descent, like because they're close to us, so we work pretty close together. So like there's a lot of stuff that's made in that truck to make. Like if you buy bumpers from descent and you throw it on your 200 series thinking you're going to fit 37s, it's not going to work.
No, you're not, because that's the situation I'm in with my 35s, and I'm looking at my descent front bumper and going, that's we're going to have to take about 2 inches off. That's the only way this is going to work.
It's just a matter of cutting and capping it off, but it's a little bit more challenging when it's aluminum. Capping aluminum is not as easy. So, but yeah, that was the initial goal. So the front end, I wanted to get more width and travel. It's got a Tundra OEM spec Tundra suspension. So everything in the front is upright, lower, like CVs.
Upper and lower CVs, tie rods. Yeah,
everything is Tundra. Now the rear, I like how Toyotas, like in general, how they flex with the factory multi-link in the back. Like I think they travel fairly well. Like they compensate for a lot of lack of travel in the front. So, but to kind of spike it more, I ran outboarded 12-inch shocks. So it's got King shocks outboarded. So that thing moves. It's got a lot of travel, big 3.0s, can handle the weight, can handle the speed. That's if you look at that tire profile. I mean, that's a 37 hanging way below the bumper. Like that thing moves.
Right. So, yeah.
And everything else that comes with that. All the lights and little accessories. I'm always messing with the truck. I'm changing something, like particularly with swing outs. I think my next mod for that is I have a rack with a tent going back on for like the third time. So,
people seem to be in a love-hate relationship with tents and racks. They're always up and down.
Yeah, and that's the thing with mine. I put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. So I think this last one I'm going to probably keep it on there just because I never like that spacing, the gap between the roof and the tent in the front. Like, it just doesn't – again, aesthetics means a lot to me. Like, I hate that space. So having a rack – I'm working with Descent and have a proper setup. So it's going to be cool. Once we're done, it's going to be something different. So my latest mod on that truck has been I've been working with guys from Air Down, Gear Up. Shout out to them. A lot of different Jaws options in the market, and I've tried a bunch of them, and they nailed it. Like, that's my jam. I like Goose Gear, I like all those guys. I mean, good stuff. But what their Air Down guys are doing, I think it's definitely unique, and particularly for lane cruiser guys, like lane cruiser Toyota guys. It might be different for like G people or somebody else, others makes, but I don't know about Tacomas and all that. But for lane cruiser, just the depth, the size, how things open up, how things come together, love it. So I have those in my truck now, just the best. So that's
I remember when I first saw some pictures of this truck online, and the first thing I noticed was the snorkel. Right, that's the first time I'd seen one of those Munster Service snorkels, and I DM'd you and said, "Where did that come from?" And you sent me the link, and I placed the order, and that's when there was all kinds of chaos in the world, and it took 6 months to get over here. And I got it, and then but I've got an LX, right? I've got a 570, and so the fender's just a little bit different. And I said, well, I can make this work. And then just about that time, they said, surprise, we've got one for the LX now. And I was like, okay, here we go again. So yeah, so I sold that one to a friend and waited and got the LX specific one, and it's perfect.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's one thing I think I get the most compliments on is in the snorkel, because it's nothing like it. It's the guys, their approach to building things comes from like building body kits for exotic cars. Like,
right, yes,
how it looks is everything. I mean, that's what it's all about. So for the limited couple of options that they offer for trucks, which is just snorkels, it's I had to get it.
Yeah, I don't know if somebody that works there or owns it had a 200, and that's how they got into it, because it's very odd looking at the rest of their product line. But I'm happy they exist. Yeah,
no, for sure. I'm very happy with it. It's quality product, and I color matched mine. I'm glad that thing is on there. I think it's much more difficult to get it now, get that snorkel now than it was before.
Yeah. I think it's still, if anybody's listening, it is still doable, but you have to be patient. And things have gotten more expensive. So just be sitting down when you get the shipping quote on it. We'll put it that way. So
yeah.
All right. Hey, Dmitry, let's talk about the Moscow Mule.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, this thing is just. I started to say stellar, which it is. It's just, this is the perfect rig, in my opinion, to show off what you guys can really do.
Yeah, this thing is ridiculous. I mean, if you hear this thing, we have straight pipes with the Magnaflow X pipe in there. Straight, just no mufflers. It's like the best way to compare it to is it's like a fighter jet. Like, it's just all go, like just crazy performance, loud, ridiculous. Not necessarily the most comfortable for long trips, but you can, I guess, if you want. But this was built with the intended purpose to wheel the trails that we have here in NorCal. So
yeah,
Rubicon, Fordyce, this is where this thing spends majority of its time.
Yeah, give us just the quick 1 minute rundown on the specs for somebody that hadn't seen this thing before.
Yeah, for sure. So to make it really simple, everything below the frame is custom. There's nothing that's left over that's been the original Toyota. So like the rear, it's got a reverse 4-link, which is if you can compare it to traditional 4-link, it doesn't have it's triangulated. It doesn't have a panhard bar. So just only 4 links holding the rear axle. Front is a 3-link with a panhard. Dana 60 front, matching Sterling 10.5 rear. We got a taco box, dual cases. I mean, ARB front and rear lockers, 14-inch coilovers all around, winch. You know, it's got a lot. You know, if you walk around the truck, there's a lot of cool little details. You know, like in person, you would notice like just how we put the things together. Like even just with the packaging and all that. So the truck sits relatively low for what it has. So that's another kind of goal of ours.
Yeah.
Low profile trusses. You know, it's got RCVs, all the supporting mods. So it's just a cool truck. And it's all stock inside. Like, you know, I don't have a cage. I don't have, you know, anything crazy. No extra cage or anything. So it's just the stock 400. You know, I have a switch pro in there. That's it.
Very cool. All right. So so speaking of recognizable trucks, you had a truck from overseas that spent a little time in your shop here over the past year. Let me play this clip for folks that haven't seen it.
3030.
Here she is, mate. Here she is. On American soil. It's kind of bizarre, really.
I know, that's kind of wild. You bringing it over here?
And I've come to one of the coolest little workshops I've ever seen. Some of the rigs inside here have blown my mind. I thought I've seen just about it when it comes to custom vehicles, but that's just absolutely mind-boggling. What you guys can actually create is nothing short of amazing, but you can not just have them for the tracks, you can actually wheel them on the road as well.
Dude, so give me the backstory on this. I mean, I'm sure you were subscribed to their YouTube just like everybody else in the country. Do you get a phone call one day like, "Hey, mate, I'm coming over there and I want to ship you my truck"? How did this transpire?
No, I guess it was a lot more just random. You know, okay. we're a relationship. We have a relationship with Red Arc, which obviously has they're out of Australia. The 24/7 4-wheel drive guys are all about it. Red Arc. So they 24 outside of us or anything else, like 24/7, they decided to do a tour in US, like, you know,
right,
wheel a bunch of trails, shoot a bunch of content, and they were gonna run the Rubicon, and they knew the guys from Red Arc who know us, and you know, we just kind of connected through that. So they literally just made a pit stop at our shop. They just showed up. Matter of fact, I wasn't even there. I wasn't like a family vacation in Montana with my family the first time they came by. That video, I wasn't there. So they just rolled in and hung out. You know, they asked us if they could use our shop for just install some accessories. I'm like, absolutely, no problem. And they did, and that's that. You know, they did their first show, so that was last year. And after that, I think it was really after that. Like we kind of started, you know, they were at our shop, so we're talking. I'm talking to Sean. I'm calling him. You know, like we're just kind of, you know, just having these random connections, and we started chatting about the second part of their like just another leg of their tour.
Right.
And he's like, dude, can you like hold my truck? You know, we're just finished Utah. I'm looking for a place. I'm like, bro, no problem. Remember, we have a lot of space, abundance of space. Bring it over. You know, how cool would it be to have this thing at our shop? You know, to geek over. So brought it to our shop. That led us to more conversations of what we can do to the truck, which we did. And you know, which led more conversations. I'm like, hey, let's do like let's run some trails here locally in the snow. So, right. Which that kind of opened up a whole window, whole conversation to, like, you know, doing episodes here. So we're super honored. I'm honored, like, to be part of their show. We did 2 episodes with Northern California snow episodes. We shot maybe a month ago.
Awesome.
With those guys, and that was just epic time. I mean, I wheeled this in and out of California, like all sorts of trails, but just wheeling with those guys, you know, it pushed everybody's limits, you know, because we had to make put up a good show, good quality content, push our limits of our trucks, and you watch their shows. I mean, it's red line. I mean, it's all the juicy, all the meat. So, you know, I think we captured a lot of that stuff. So our first show was with our shop, the Tacoma on tracks, and our second one we had the Land Cruiser. So
nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, and obviously each show has its own quirk. You know, we went here, we went there. And it's not about our vehicles at all. It's still about 24/7 their program, but we were kind of like the hosts of being in Northern California, the hosts of these guys wheeling here. So that's our relationship with them.
But and you guys actually ended up doing a little bit of modifications on the Dirty 30, not just storing it, right?
So the Dirty 30 essentially is a custom body and a canopy that's sitting on top of an 80 series chassis. So, which again, me being an 80 guy, like I love everything about him. There's a bunch of stuff, bunch of room for improvement. So, which we did, we fixed his rear sway bar, added a sway bar in the front because it's a top heavy truck. He's got fridges and all this Overland gear. So, yeah. So we kind of worked together and made it happen while it was chilling at our shop. So
awesome. All right. Well, before I let you go, I've got two things here. We're going to run through our rapid fire questions, but one of our viewers said, don't bring him on unless you talk to him about the 100 series solid axle swap, because you have teased a potential kit of some type for these swaps. Now earlier you said I'm not getting in the production business, but is this a possibility? I've had so much inquiries on that, and we're at a point where I guess if we drum up enough attention, we can maybe do like a run of a kit. But being like a custom project, there's more to the piece of the puzzle. So like it's not like a complete kit like you would buy from Trail Gear. Like you have to figure out your steering. How are you gonna run your steering? High steer, low steer, hydro assist, all those components. So which I'm not gonna provide that in the kit. So it would be just basically all the bracketry and stuff. But the only downside to the project that we did, not necessarily downside, but if I were to build it on mine, I would do it different. Is it really needs a wider axle, and when it comes to wider axle, all the bracketry would be different. So we kind of use like a budget-friendly approach. So radius arms mounted to the factory 80 axle, and it works. The truck drives incredibly well, and honestly, for those guys that want to keep it like OEM-ish, like OEM plus, that works. But I would, if this was done like if budget allowed, I guess I would much rather run a wider axle, different mounts, not a radius arm mount, but like a 3-link mount, and because of that, I'm kind of contemplating. I don't know. I don't want to invest too much time in something I don't necessarily believe in all the way. I don't know if that makes sense. So, like, we provided the work, we provided the service for the client's budget, and we're happy with the results. But sure,
my personal approach, like, it would be a little bit different. So unless I get another 100 series like of my own and do something with that, I probably won't do anything. But that could always change. We have trucks come through our shop all the time, handed to us, sold to us, moved. Hey, I got this, that, uncle's project, my mother-in-law, whatever. Like, if we get a 100 series that we can play with, I'll gladly do something with it. So,
all right. So if you're listening to this and you're in California and you've got a 100 series that Dmitriy could potentially get his hands on, there's a lot of people that might appreciate that.
Yeah, and that truck benefits so much from a solid axle. Like that's I with all the respect to Land Cruisers, that's probably my least favorite one, is because of the torsion bars.
The torsion bars, yeah.
It's just such a vanilla suspension. We try so hard to like modify it to like to an extent. CVs are binding, they click, they break. Your boots are always ripping apart. You got to tub your wheel well. Like it requires so much to make an extreme wheeler, So where with like a solid axle would have been different. So
sure,
yeah.
All right, rapid fire, and I'll let you go here. So you're going to hit the trail for the day. It's just you kind of backwards cruising, easy trail day. What is on your music playlist for the day? What's your go-to playlist?
Yeah, my trail music is outlaw country, or I listen to kind of like an island reggae music. It's
okay. Those are kind of different from each other.
Yeah, you know, I listen. I personally, my music taste is all over the place. I listen to a lot of EDM music. You know, I listen to a lot of hip hop music. I grew up in the Bay Area, so when I'm out wheeling, I like outlaw. You know, it's kind of it's pure, it's simple, it's country. You know, America, all those things. So, and so that's one thing. And another one would be like a kind of island reggae music, because it's very just mellow vibes. Some of the stuff you don't understand what they're saying. So it's a good jam to have in the background. You know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Favorite camp meal?
Camp meal. Shoot, man, I love to cook on the trail. That's my jam. So I have this. My favorite meal would be I make this kind of a particular soup when I go camp. I call it Rubicon soup because I make it always on the Rubicon. So people that been with me know what I'm talking about. So that's my favorite meal. It's basically a reiteration of like a soup of Toscana Italian. So creamy. There's a lot of sausage, potatoes, very hearty. Fills you up, especially if it's cold. You know, have a couple of the bowls of those and you go to bed. It's perfect.
But your soup is served warm, I'm assuming, contrary to our guest Kai from Tinker Design that likes to have his soup straight out of the can at room temperature. That's his go-to.
No, I bring it all. I bring the. Yeah. I love to cook on the trail, so you know I bring my pot, all the potatoes, all the ingredients, and I cook at the store.
Cool. All right, important question here: DeWalt or Milwaukee?
Oh, Milwaukee. If you're a mechanic, Milwaukee all the way. Come on, Milwaukee guy. Like we don't have yeah. DeWalt is if you're working with wood, sure, do your thing. But man,
oh my gosh, I'm glad John's not here because he'd be gloating. He's the Milwaukee guy. I'm the DeWalt guy of our group. Okay. You've wheeled a lot of places. Like you said, I mean, you're kind of in the a real sweet spot for a lot of trails where you live there. But is there a kind of a bucket list trail or maybe location that you haven't wheeled yet that you'd like to check off?
Yeah, for sure. So Colorado. I've never been to Colorado. I've driven through it, but I never wheeled it. So
okay, wow,
everything Colorado related. That's my jam. That's probably my next my next adventure will be there. So and do everything I can while I'm there.
All right. And then last, this has been a hot topic lately. The new Land Cruiser LC250, GX550, or a 6th Gen 4Runner. Pick one.
See, that's a hard one. So I would say Land Cruiser simply because of the name and the name looks. I like that more. The only downside is the motor. I would much rather take the GX550 engine and no hybrid, no electronic assist, none of that jazz. Reason why I'm not saying that choosing the GX is because it's all-wheel drive. I gotta have selectable 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. Like the all-wheel drives, I'm not a big fan. So it works. We build them. We like them. I have a GX, but when it comes down to it, I'd rather have it something look more simple. You choose 2-wheel, you're 4-wheel, whatever. Like that's my jam. So to answer your question, I'll Land Cruiser. 4Runner, I don't know. It doesn't excite me. It's cool, but you know, I don't know. Land Cruiser is my jam.
Well, I mean, with all this pricing getting revealed, I mean, they're all going to be about the same price. It seems like it's crazy. I mean, Toyota's just said, "Hey, take your pick." There's just so much overlap there.
Well, now I will say this: the Land Cruiser that we get is not actual Land Cruiser. It's a
well, that's true. We're not talking about a proper 300 series here.
Yeah, it's a Prado thing. So you know, but still, I'll give them that. I'm like, okay, they tried. It's a Land Cruiser. It's a U.S. Land Cruiser.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Dmitry, this has been fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. I appreciate you coming on and kind of giving us the Stellar Built story. So, folks, if you're not following them on Instagram or YouTube, I would encourage you to go do so. It's really, really enjoyable content, man. Especially the YouTube. The gentleman you've got running the YouTube, tell him congratulations because he's just been killing it lately.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.